Hello. Okay, we are recording. This is Elena Lipson, your divine self-care mentor, and I'm here today with Desha Peacock, who is the sweet spot business stylist strategist. What's your favorite sort of way to describe yourself, Desha?
Oh my gosh, I have so many titles, but I guess, yeah, lifestyle design coach, small business coach, sweet
Awesome. Okay.
lifestyle coach.
We'll dig into that too. I think it's important. That's really part of what we're going to be talking about today. So first I want to share a little bit about how we met and why we're here together. And then we'll both take a little bit of time and introduce ourselves. And then we're going to share what we're most frustrated about as coaches who work with women from around the world, entrepreneurs, what really gets us frustrated and what really gets us excited. And then we're going to dig into the sweet spot. What is that? How do you know you're there? How do you get to it? How do you get clear on how you even get there? What does it mean? And then we're going to share a little bit about our personal stories and how we both found our sweet spot. And it wasn't as easy as you might think. It looks easy, but no one is born a complete, full, whole brand. So how do you get there? We're going to share a little bit of our stories and share some tips to help you get there. So first, I want to share how we met, which is kind of cool because it really is all around the world, the word sweet spot. So 2-ish years ago, I ran a group coaching program, my very first coaching program. I was scared out of my mind, but I did it. And it was called Tapping Into Your Sweet Spot. And it's because that's what I was doing in my business. I was trying to tap into my sweet spot so hard. Like I really wanted to know, what am I here to do? What was my thing? And along that way, I filled that course. 15 women showed up almost overnight, really almost overnight. Like I put it out there in this group of women and 15 women showed up. So I knew something was happening. Like someone was giving me the like universal nod, right? Yes, keep going. This is the right thing. And then through that journey, I discovered Sweet Spot, which was your thing at the time, your book, your programs, what you were doing. And we just sort of connected. And it wasn't about like, oh, you're using my word, I'm using your word. It was such a coming home, like, hey, soul sister, we're both using the word sweet spot. And we just sort of, I know I felt like we're going to connect over time somehow. It just felt so natural. We were looking at sweet spot from different angles. I loved, first of all, your designs are gorgeous. As far as the interior design and just the images that you were sharing were so beautiful. I felt instantly drawn. And so we really just stayed connected over time. In the business world, it's really crucial to have other women, other entrepreneurs who you can reach out to in the moments of celebration and in the moments of frustration. It's just so validating and so important to be supported in that way. So I just knew this is a woman that I was going to be connected with. And here we are. Finally, the right moment was born, the sweet spot, right, of connecting. And here we are sharing our journey. So maybe you can take a few minutes and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do. And then I can share a little bit as well for those who have never met me, the Divine Self-Care Mentor. So go ahead, Desha, it's all yours.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I know I love connecting with fellow entrepreneurs. It's so important to stay connected because I don't know if you guys are watching or solopreneurs or you have your own business in some way, but it's definitely a really good way to grow personally. And with that comes so many challenges and so many amazing blessings. So it's awesome to be here with you, Elena. So a little bit about me. I started off a couple of years ago. I quit my job. I was a director of career development at a small liberal arts college. And I had been encouraging people to do work they love. And through that process, over 4 years, I started to see people, taking my advice and seeing great results from it. And I thought, I need to do this for myself. I need to figure out a way that I can do creative work that's meaningful and fulfilling and to make money at it. And so I started my own personal journey, and now that's what I'm doing full time. So I'm an author. I've written a book on home decor and getting into your sweet spot with home decor, which is really, about creative self-expression. And that's sort of the theme throughout my business. The sweet spot style is the umbrella. And I really do believe that, creatively expressing yourself through, whether it's your personal style or your home decor, or even what you do for a living, that's all it's all a representation of who you are, right? And so it's important that you get it right so you can reflect more of that and bring more of that into your life. So yeah, I work with women one-on-one to get into their sweet spot in their home, life, and business. And I do group programs, and I've just released my first e-course. So Yes, it's called Sweet Spot Style Your Biz.
I love that. And so from externally, if I can just reflect back, so when I first met you, I feel like there was a real focus on style and design and decor. And I love this when this happens. And I've seen it happen several times. You do really, really well in what you're creating. And then you do that process so well, people want to know how you do it. So you start teaching them how to do it. And I've seen this with artists like Kelly Ray Roberts, who's this amazing, prolific sort of artist. I've seen it in our realm with someone like Jada Selner, who's Simple Green Smoothies, right? Who was the smoothie person, and now she's teaching other women how to start their businesses. So I feel like there's this evolution piece that people sometimes forget about. Like, you start where you start, and that's where you are at that moment, and then it evolves based on what you find. Even I can't remember exactly who it was. Maybe it was Natalie Lucier, who's all about, you know, writing and list building and business building, but she started as a food coach, as a health coach. So people evolve and they change and they shift and they pivot, and so I feel like that's such a big part of the sweet spot. So why don't we get into a little, well, maybe I'll introduce myself and then we'll get into that frustrating piece. So for those of you that don't know me and haven't seen my work, I'm the Divine Self-Care Mentor, and I help amazing women doing incredible work in the world to create signature self-care systems in their day. It means practical things you do every single day, build that habit so you have the energy to keep showing up, because that's the one thing, is it takes a big amount of energy to keep showing up every day, both emotionally and spiritually and socially. You have to do things every day that keep your energy present and focused. So that's my passion, is to figure out those nuances of how to build habits. And my background is I was an organizational psychology major, so I was always interested in what makes things work and what makes things tick. And I'm still interested in that. And so I became a corporate trainer, and I was developing curriculum and training people within corporations. And then I went on my own when my son was born. And then I went in the online world and love it so much. The leverage of your time, the ability to connect with thousands and thousands of people is amazing. So I've been on social media since it was born. And so I'm absolutely a fan of it too, especially as a mom. I don't want to be on the computer all the time. I have things to do, so other things to do. So for me, that's a sweet spot of really leveraging social media to build your business. So why don't we get into a little bit of what we see that is sort of the impetus for this call, which is, you know, how do you find your sweet spot? What do you see the most that is frustrating in terms of people not hitting their sweet spot? And I know you shared a little bit about, before our call, some experiences and quotes that really sort of inspired you to continue doing this as well. So what was most frustrating to you, or what do you see that's most frustrating to you about women trying to find that sweet spot and not being able to? What are the misbeliefs and limited beliefs that they might be carrying?
Well, it's such a great question. And, you know, I've definitely struggled with it myself. And I think you have too. You know, it's like we started at one point and we thought it was that one thing. And just to sort of back up to that point, you know, when I was first starting out in business, there's so many different directions you can go. And if you're multi-passionate, there's like so many different things you could do or focus on. And for me, that was, you know, about 4 different categories. So it's like, well, what are you going to do? And I could have, you know, let myself be hung up on that. Do I write a book on personal style, home decor, lifestyle, or business? And in the end, I just had to pick one. And this is what I see as frustrating. What I'm seeing is frustrating for my clients, and what I'm seeing in lots of groups are people have a lot of ideas and they're trying to move forward with their ideas, but there's too many, there's too much stuff, and they're trying to follow somebody else's formula. You know, there's all kinds of amazing marketers out there, and the marketers are telling you, hey, sign up for my program, follow my formula, do what I did, and you too can be amazingly happy. And it's like, yeah, of course we want that. Like, we want it to be easy. We want to just follow somebody's formula. Like, I would have loved to just call a coach and be like, here's all my ideas, what should I do? And have them tell me. But would that be the answer for me? No, because nobody can tell me what I need to do with my life. A good coach, like you and I talked about before, can help you. They can ask the right questions so that you can process it and come up with your own answer. That's a good coach. But, you know, nobody's going to tell you what to do with your life. And nobody's going to tell you the exact awesome formula. You just follow step A through Z, and boom, you're like a booming success, making tons of money doing work you love. We wish that would happen, and sometimes it does happen, but I think more often than not, it's a struggle because you're trying to figure it out. And that happened with me, and I was inspired to talk to you about this, Elena, too, because there was a thread on a group that we were both in, and a woman had written this long post, and it was, I'm tired of trying, I'm tired of doing everything I'm supposed to do and it's not working, I'm tired of tapping, and I'm tired of trying to figure out what I'm supposed to learn from this, and I'm tired of building my list, and I'm tired of everything, nothing's working. And there were so many responses to that, of people raising their hand and saying, I am too. I'm so tired. This is so hard.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a discussion to open it up. It's like, how can you have an intention? How can you go for your goals and be open to expected and unexpected miracles?
Right. Right. I love that so much. And I saw that thread also, and part of me read it. I remember reacting to it like, wow, I'm seeing a lot of tired. Like, what's going on there? Really, like, if you look deeper, because, the first thing people tell you is like the surface answer. But I would love to just get her on the phone and say, what's really going on? Like, this doesn't just happen overnight. This has been building over time. And she just exploded with this, like, I'm just tired of it all. So where along the way are women, like this particular woman you mentioned, not listening to their intuition? Where are they not doing what their body's telling them to do? Where are they not following their inner guidance of like, you know what? I see someone's doing this and they're telling me to do it. It just doesn't feel right, so I'm not going to do it. I thoroughly and deeply believe the more we go against that, the more exhausted we get, because we're fighting our own selves. So that's, for me, like this woman who wrote this, I want to just like, wrap my arm around her and be like, let's just talk. Like, let's clear the decks, because when you're lit up about your business, you're not tired. You are like, I just want to keep working. You have to sort of pull yourself back, from like, wait a minute, I do not want to work all the time. What do I really, really want? Right. So for me, that's really how I got to this whole self-care thing. And for me, you asked me this question, did you start with self-care? And I didn't start with self-care. I was a life coach and a business coach for entrepreneurs way back when. I was corporate trainer, and I was starting my coaching business at the same time, kept my day job for a long time. And so that's how I started, helping people do the business plans and, really clear those blocks. I didn't even know they were called blocks at the time. It was like, what are your core values? I went through the traditional coach training years ago. And so it was the core values, building around those, all those things that we need to do. However, when I became a mom and I saw this whole online world and I started learning about online marketing and how you can really be the brand, I actually started with intuition, raw foods, and natural beauty. So those are my 3 pillars. And that was my first website. And I was like, and you can see how different each of those things can be its own sort of brand, right? So you can see I was trying not to limit myself, and that's what a lot of people do in the beginning. Like, I don't want to limit myself because I don't believe that any of these one things can really do it. So I think, to loop back around to that question, I was exhausted because I was constantly trying to figure out, like, is this right for me? Is that right for me? Is that program for me? Like, there's so many things coming at you, and you don't know. You don't have the confidence in the beginning to make those choices and really believe in them. You don't want to spend the money because you're not sure, but then you sort of have to, and oh my God, and the website and the branding and the marketing, and it's just so much, right? So I sort of hit that moment of like, you know what, I'm just going to keep going, just like I do everything else in life. I'm just going to try it. I'm not going to think about it too much. I'm just going to move forward. And so through that process of moving forward, I hit this moment through being in my own mastermind with women who I trust and adore, who really got to know me. And the thing I kept talking about more and more was self-care. I just kept coming back to it. It was in my languaging. It was in my words. It was like, it just kept coming up. And so I started listening to that. Like, what do I want to talk about all the time? If you threw me on stage right now at a speaking gig, I can talk about self-care for hours. Those are the kind of questions that a good coach will ask you. Like, what really lights you up? What are those stories in your life that you can pull from and share natural anecdotes? That's what I really help the women that I work with around. So for me, the frustrating part is that, I think people are looking on the surface for the answers, where it's all really, let me just sit down and take a pen and paper and not browse Facebook for the answer, not go on Google, like really get a pen and paper and write down, like, what do I really want to do? What do I love to do? And start asking those really simple questions and keep asking them. I still ask myself that, like, how do I want to show up? Anytime I create something new, if I forget to do that, which I did recently, total, full disclosure, I fully forgot to do that when I was launching a program my last time, and it totally flopped. It was terrible. And afterwards, I'm like, what was that? That was so weird. Like, I just assume I build it and they come. And I didn't take the time. I was moving too fast. I didn't pause to ask myself, how does this fit in with everything else I'm doing? How can I really set the intention for it? So I didn't do any of that. So I had to be honest with myself, which is another piece of like finding that sweet spot. Keep pivoting, keep asking yourself those questions, take those pauses of intentional clarity, right? Clarity gets you into that sweet spot really fast as well. So I think the key to maybe answering that woman, who's so tired of what she's really tired of, I would think, just intuitively, is not trusting her own voice and not taking time to say, that might work for you, but it doesn't work for me. Let me figure out what works for me now at this point in my life, in my business, and find that sweet spot of like what I want to do, because I am not a template. My life is not a template. It doesn't fit in there. So yeah, those are some frustrations that I think could be resolved in a really, I don't want to say easy way, but like simple, really simple, the simple, sweet, there's like simplicity to a sweet spot, right? It's not crowded, it's not convoluted. Like your designs, like it's not filled with a million things. It's like one or two beautiful things that catch your eye. That's what we feel when we see somebody that's in their sweet spot. They're like, wow, and I hear that. Well, it's easy and I actually have clients who've said this to me, it's easy for you because you found your thing. I'm like, well, I wasn't born with my thing. I've had a journey to find my thing. I've had really rough moments to find my thing. I've had lots of tears to find my thing. With my husband, I'm like, oh my God, like, when is this gonna work? Moment, like really hard moments. And I could just cry thinking about it right now because it's so painful to be in that. But if you stay in it, if you're like, okay, in this space, what do I want to get rid of? Like, what's not working? And then keep going from there. So, okay, we can keep going like an hour. We really need to do this again.
Yeah, I know.
So much there.
I love some of the points that you brought up around, getting really clear, I think is the first thing. And sometimes you're just not clear. Sometimes you don't even know how to be clear. But I think that goes back to just starting. Like you and I both, both of our businesses have morphed over the last couple of years. And, you had 3 different categories and it all turned into self-care. And mine was home decor and all this other stuff, and it's turned into what it is now. And I think that was a good point that you made of what do you always talk about? What do you always have energy to talk about? Mm-hmm. And for me, it's like I've always had this energy where even before I started my business, I can remember like just in high school, just like friends who are artists, like, oh, I love your art. Like, how can we get it out there? Like seeing the bigger possibilities in people and encourage them to move forward because I'm inspired by them and like, I just want to see them do well. So, and it's the same thing for you with self-care. That subject just came back over and over and over again. And I think that's a good thing if anybody's watching. If you are struggling, you're like, well, yeah, I wish I had clarity, but I don't. Think about it. What do you notice that you're energized from? Just taking it back, the business model is, what do people want? If you go to business school, they're going to teach you to look at the market, analyze the market, and give something that the market wants. And I think you and I both agree that, that's not how we coach. The way we coach is, what is it that you want to give? What are your talents, passions, and skills? Because if you can connect with that, you will be successful. Right?
Absolutely. That's it right there. And it's a scary, proposition to really trust yourself enough to start the other way around. And there's all kinds of marketing information you can find to do it the other way. And I've done it both ways, like really reach out there and ask people. And, like I've always been a little bit of a rebel, and I think you need that in order to do your own thing. You need to just have the confidence to say, like, I hear you. I've said this to my coaches, like, I hear your advice. I get it. I will take it into consideration. And ultimately, and I get this feedback, like, you're just going to do your own thing anyway. Like, yeah, I do my own thing, but it's through thoughtful contemplation of the input that I'm getting that helps me to even reflect, like, okay, I hear you. How does that feel to me? and really have something to even bounce off of instead of me just spinning in my own circle, which I do coach myself really well, but I really love having a coach too, because especially one that knows me over time, that I can work with over a year or more, because then they see my evolution and they help me see the big picture. And I love that long-term planning. I don't like that just like, in fact, the program I have right now is a year-long program that I have 18 women in, because I just took a chance. I'm like, you know what? There's going to be women out there who don't want the 6-week, 8-week done and you're done. Like I have those too, but this year-long is so different. Like we are together for the long haul. We're building this sisterhood, this circle, this bond, and it's because it's something I craved. So I created it based on something that I wanted. So, because I am in a mastermind that I've been in a year, a little over a year now, and these women are they're my soul sisters. Like I know that if I have a question or I'm thinking through something, I can go and say, okay, I need a clear reflection back. Does this match what I've been talking about? Like, am I just totally off course? Do I need to step away for a minute? So I think for me, having that reflection around you is really important to helping you find your sweet spot. So one of the first things that I know I've done this in a couple of programs that I've been involved in, and sometimes will ask my clients to do when they don't have that clarity, and some people do and some people don't, is to really go and ask a few trusted people, not everyone, because you don't need to hear it from everyone, just who really knows you, who sees you, and ask them to describe you in 2 or 3 words, or what's the most positive trait about you. What do you see most often? So you get a little bit of that reflection. So that's a good way to find out what your sweet spot is if you don't see yourself, because some people don't have that clarity of mind. So, so I have a question for you. I think we sort of can keep talking about that, but I want to know from you, because this is a conversation I've been having with clients recently, is how do you know when you're in your sweet spot? And we've hit a few of those points, like you're energized, right? You want to talk about it all the time. Is there anything else that you found for yourself that you're like, yeah, this is the direction I want to go in? What is maybe some tools that you use, or do you feel it in your body? What happens? Do you make lots of money? Like what happens that you know you're in your sweet spot?
Yeah, I would like to say when I make a lot of money, but I feel like I'm not sure I can say that quite yet. I'm still kind of on that path. Like I feel like, what is my sweet spot? I mean, I define my sweet spot as doing creative work. I love making money and creating a lifestyle that fulfills me and inspires me. And I love luxury. I love international travel. I like to stay in nice places. I like nice, pretty clothes, So that's, I feel like when I'm in my sweet spot, I have that. And come to think of it, I do have that. And I've manifested that in my life, not in the strangest of ways, not necessarily because I'm making lots of money, but because I've called it in the most unique and strange ways. I'll say, I really want to be able to go shopping at this particular store, and the store owner calls me and say, I've been following you. I'd love to work with you, but I hate to ask this, but would you be willing to do a trade? And, normally I would say, sorry, no, but I'm like, actually, yeah, I'd love to do a trade because I love your store. Or like I told my husband, the one thing that I don't really love to do is be in charge of food for my family every day, 3 times a day. We're all home during the summer, which is a blessing. We have tons of time together. My husband's a teacher, my daughter's at home. But it's like, gosh, I have to figure out how to feed you people, and I just want to work on my business. Like I just wish I had a personal chef. And then what happens? Somebody who follows me, who has an organic cafe, says, hey, I really need your help. Would you be interested in doing a trade? And I'm like, wow. Free food at the organic cafe that my husband can just run and get and bring home? That's like a personal chef. Yeah, I'll take that in a second. So, I feel like that's when I'm in my sweet spot, when it's easy. So I think here's number 1, when it gives me energy and lights me up. When it's easy, when things flow, And so I'll give you an example of when I'm not in my sweet spot. And this is a hard lesson, and this is even hard for me to say right now, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you and be vulnerable. So I'm in this launch, and I studied all these formulas, and I was like, I've studied these cases, and I've seen this person do it, and I've seen this person do it, and I know I can do it, and I'm going to do it. And like, I even said somewhere on some Facebook group, like, I'm going to this launch as a barracuda. Like, I'm so not a barracuda, And one day, so I started doing webinars and Facebook ads. But my Facebook ads were sucking. Like, I wasn't getting good results. And I hated trying to figure them out. I would sit down and force myself to watch webinar after webinar. I'd take notes and I'd go in, and the ads weren't even coming up. And I was like, I don't even know why they're not coming up. I don't get this. But basically, 2 or 3 weeks into this, and I'm like, this is my last week of my launch, and I'm like, okay, I have to be honest with myself right now. And I told my friend the other day, I was like, this isn't my sweet spot. Like, I love the work that I do with my clients, but the way to get there, the way I'm trying to find them, is pulling my energy. It's making me sad. It's making me feel almost depressed. And I'm like, I gotta stop that. I just can't do that. That's just, I don't know what the best strategy for me is. Like, I'm trying some different things now. I'm doing clarity calls where I can connect one-on-one. But that wasn't my sweet spot, and I just had to admit it. It doesn't mean that I have to ditch my whole business. It just means, like, okay, maybe Facebook webinars, maybe that's not my thing, or maybe I need to hire that out completely and try it again, or just do the clarity calls or do more interviews. But I need to figure out a way to make it more fun for me to do my business.
Yeah, I love that. That's so important, and you can't really know it until you try it. And there might be moments where you feel like that barracuda, but is that sustainable? Is that really how you want to be? And so that's really important. There's so many ways to do things. Some of the biggest investments I've made for my own coaches have been like personal invitations. Hey, I see you. This is what you're doing. I love what you're doing. I'd love to invite you to this call. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, I feel honored that you reached out to me. I've been watching you too. Like, and other times it's been a pure webinar funnel. Like, and there's so many ways to do it, and there's so many ways to succeed. But like you said, so I heard you really even your face sort of reacted to like how you were not enjoying the process. And that's a really great like signpost for you. Like, yes, there's definitely work to do, and you just have to just like hit the grindstone sometimes, right? And hustle if you choose to. But no, you don't have to do it any one way. Your hustle might look different from my hustle, So for me, I get to embody and teach self-care. So for me, part of my business is to really create a lot of flow and a lot of space in my life. And I know my energy really well. I know how I work really well. So I can see that with you too. It's really similar. It's not like you wake up at 6 in the morning and work till 10 at night. You probably burn out like that pretty quickly. So, but the other thing that you didn't mention, but I heard you say really clearly, and the way you're manifesting it, was that you do have clarity about what you want. You said very specifically, I wish I had a personal chef. And like, it was very clear. You didn't necessarily say, I wish I had a personal chef, and I know, but I know, whatever. You just sort of put it out there, and boom, it shows up. And people underestimate the power of clarity. It's like this force, right? All around you, waiting for you to just point it in the right direction, like, where do you want to go? What do you want? And we get too caught up in the, how is it going to happen? I can't afford it. Oh my God. And we end up staying there for too long. But the other thing you said was like, I love to do this. I love to travel this way. I love to have pretty clothes. I love, so those are the things that you're ending up manifesting and even working towards. So sometimes just sitting down again with that pen and paper and like, what do I really want? And starting there, and then allowing that to be a filter to everything you choose. Like, okay, so if I want to do this 3-video launch, well, I really hate creating videos and whatever, then you get to decide, is this a limiting spot where I can grow more, or is this, really something I don't want to do? And I do have clients who hate it, and so we figure out other ways to do it. So there's many, many ways to be in business, and finding your sweet spot is so good and feels amazing, and it doesn't happen overnight. You just have to try things out. Like you said, I tried the formulas, I watched the webinars, I hated it. Maybe that's something where you still see the benefit of it in your business, but maybe you decide to hire it out and not do it yourself. And that could be an easeful way to still benefit from Facebook ads, but not necessarily be the one to figure out the logistics of it. Like, I wouldn't do my own accounting. Like, I know people who do, but I have no need to do it. I hired an accountant, done. I give her the information and it gets processed, done. So that's an easeful way to stay keeping your business growing. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And can I just ask you, Elena, I don't know, but how long have you been in business?
So again, I started my coaching, like official, I'm a life coach, certified 16 almost years ago. And that was in California. And then I took some time off to have my son, but I didn't really take time off. I actually started an online business called Lala Natural. It was an organic baby boutique, and it forced me to figure it all out. This is before social media, before Facebook. The only one that was around was, oh shoot, I can't even remember what it's called, where you pin these pictures. Anyway, it was not around anymore. So I had to write articles for magazines, and I had to go to the post office every day to ship out, items. So it really forced me to figure out the whole online world. And I was then, after that, I sold that company, and I was a blogger for 5 years, the Eco Diva, where I was blogging about natural beauty and green, green lifestyle. And that was really, this is, let's see, probably 9 years ago now, 7 or 8 years ago. And that's sort of what I was talking about. Like, sometimes you start the passion and then you end up sort of morphing into the next thing. Because what I found was, because my name got out there, my brand was growing quickly, and I was selling advertising space, people wanted to know how I was doing it. So that's when I started going back into the coaching, like, okay, let me show you how to do a website. Let me show you how to do a blog. Let me show you how to do, images. And so that's how it started evolving. I'm like, you know what? I need to get back into the coaching thing. So that, it didn't take very long for me to flip over into that. And that's how I started exploring, well, what did that look like? What would that mean? So I sold at ecodiva.com, which was awesome. And I started the coaching thing, full time again, which has been the path to figure it out. So really the self-care piece has been born about 3 years ago. Again, evolving over time, really, and I move quickly, so it evolves quickly. So 3 years for this brand is a baby, really, right? If you think about it that way.
Yeah, it's a toddler. Like, it just
like toddler. Figuring it out. It's getting the footing going, right?
Yeah. So, okay. So let me ask you the question. Do you feel like you're in your sweet spot now? So and I think this is really important to see, is that you have been in business. Like, it's been a business, but it's morphed, but you've still been in business for many years, like 15 years. So when did you know, or do you know, if you're in your sweet spot? How do you know?
I do think I'm in a sweet spot, and I'm evolving. I think both are true. I knew I wasn't in my sweet spot in the beginning. I was working a lot. I actually got really sick. I got exhausted. I got autoimmune disease. I really burned myself out because I was waking up really early several times a week to go to networking breakfast. I would be taking coaching calls during lunch and after work. I was constantly studying, like, how do I do this? How do I do that? Building my own website, HTML, right, back then. So it was just a lot. And that was not my sweet spot, because then the formula was fill up my calendar, make 6 figures. That's how it would work. And I don't like to do that. That's not good. That did not work for me. My body was the first to sort of break down on that one. So after a lot of soul searching, going back to yoga training and breath work and diet, I mean, this is several years, right? We can do a whole call on, like, the wrong side of the sweet spot, the dark side of the sweet spot. So that's how I really found self-care, was because that's what saved me, was really consciously committing to myself, mindfulness, meditation, diet, nature, play, relationships, gratitude, support, intuition, all of it. All of the stuff that I put into my programs are the things that saved me from exhaustion and burnout and illness. I mean, it was not a pretty scene. And I talk about this on my website and my blogs, and really how I found that I know without a shadow of a doubt, if a woman commits to herself, to saying yes to herself, to making and taking time, to playing more, to meditating more, I know it's going to affect your bottom line. I know your business will grow. It happened to me. It happens to my clients. Like, the sweet spot sort of arrives when you get there, right? When you're like, wow, I'm honoring my voice. I'm trusting myself. I'm keeping promises to myself. I'm trusting my intuition. I'm making decisions based on myself, not other people. And from there, I think you're able to trust yourself in the business decisions and in choosing who you want to work with, how you want to work with them. I mean, when I started this a couple of years ago, I still sort of filled up my day with calls. And I remember just sitting exhausted at the end of each day, like, oh, this is so draining. Like, I love the call. I'm lit up on the call. I give 100% of my energy, and then boom. So I limited it. I was sitting at dinner with my husband, and I'm like, wait a minute. This is my business. I don't have to start at 9 a.m. I don't have to run back from dropping my son off at school and, like, breathless and, oh my God, am I going to be late if there's a little traffic? And, I can start at 9:30. I can sit down, have a cup of coffee, meditate for a few minutes, sit outside, and arrive ready to serve my clients. I can take 2 clients a day for longer calls. We can dig in deeper. And then I can go out and go for a walk, go do whatever I want to do, go walk my dog, and be there to pick up my son. That's a sweet spot. I like that. Right? So that's how I know I'm in my sweet spot, because my business doesn't exhaust me. I set it up in a way that it energizes me. I make money while I sleep. I have things that are running behind the scenes. Part of it, I love being in circle with the women that I host throughout the year. I'm running a live retreat, which I'm loving. So there's parts of my business that I love now, but it took me a couple of years to really own that, to trust myself, to wake up in the morning excited, but also being willing to pivot if I need to. There's, I'm at a time in my life like you are with a young child that requires certain time commitments, right? And you want to enjoy it. So I know in 10 years from now, my life will be totally different. My business will be totally different. So I think part of that sweet spot is knowing that it's not a physical spot like in time. It's a journey, right? So you keep pivoting, you keep evolving, you keep checking in with yourself. Is this still working? And then you're like in the sweet spot way, right? Like you just keep checking in with it. And which means for you, traveling luxuriously, dressing beautifully, having a private chef, all those things are indicators to you that you're there. The money piece, that's something, sort of integrated in there, and you have to decide for yourself, like, I'm working towards it, but the fact that I'm not at my dollar amount doesn't mean I'm not in my sweet spot. I'm getting there, right? Like I'm chugging along, I'm getting there. And as long as you don't quit. And you mentioned something before our call. I know we're going really, really long, but I hope there's so much juiciness here that people will, really stick with it. Is that entrepreneurship is not the only path. It's not the only way. I love being in corporate training. I loved it. I love my team. I love my boss. I love traveling. I love being in front of the room. I loved all of it, except I didn't like the boundary of the time. Like I didn't want to be there at 9 and leave at 5, So for me, that was an issue. I needed the freedom to be in life the way I needed to be. But I know there's people who love their jobs, and we need excited, entrepreneurial-minded people in corporations to do amazing things too. So it's not just like A or B. It could be a combination of both. So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Just hearing you talk about the sweet spot, it just reminded me that I struggled for so long to figure out what I wanted to do. I had so many different jobs that I was unhappy with, and I feel like I'm manifesting this lifestyle that lights me up. And I do believe, I've been able to be in this business and not work for anybody else for almost 2 years. So I feel like that's an accomplishment in itself. But just the fact that I know that this is what I want to do is my sweet spot too. I just have to say that that's kind of a big deal for me personally. It's just been like such a long process. And now it's like, gosh, I've got that. Like a lot of people don't even question it, or they just decide to live in slight misery, because they think they're supposed to. And I feel like a lot of people are struggling to figure out what it is. So I'm like, okay, at least I know what it is. So I'm happy about that.
And that doesn't mean you never doubt it for a second, right? Like there's always that doubt, like when the launch isn't working or something's not going right, or you have a bad moment with a client, which happens. It happens. We're all human, but it's all the journey, right? So I think as long as you keep asking yourself the questions and finding like-minded people to be with and take care of yourself, of course, is what I'm always going to preach. It's a really important conversation to have, the sweet spot. How do I know I'm there? What would that look like for me? What kind of support can I get? I know you work with women, one-on-one to help them find their sweet spot, and I work with them to find that self-care sweet spot, that lifestyle that supports what they want to grow. So that's the angle that I am whole. And we do business coaching as well, for sure, because I've got that experience and I've got that insight and feedback, but I always come back to, like, how does that feel? What would your life look like? What would your week look like? What would your month look like? We really build the foundation, because otherwise, if you're working up here and the foundation's not strong, of your lifestyle, it's going to collapse. You're going to be exhausted. You're going to resent your business. Your, spouse or partner or friends are going to be like, where are you? Who are you? Why are you so stressed out? And really it's about enjoying the journey as much as you can, and trusting that if you keep going, if you keep getting support, asking the right questions, it will happen. It really does. You just got to enjoy it. Like, don't waste a minute, trying to, like, if that woman's tired, I would say, go rest, honey, rest. Like, you're tired, go rest, and then come back, go nourish yourself, go take time off, and then come back. Even if it's just a full day of unplug, just being, feeling your body, going to the ocean, whatever you want to do, and then come back and start again. Say, okay, what worked? What didn't work? What do I need to change? And then start there. You get a chance to start over every day, and I know when you put money in the equation, it can get very stressful for a lot of people, but it's a journey. I think you're worth the investment, right? You're worth it.
Yeah, we're all worth it. We're all worth the investment. I have a quote that might be nice to end on here, and it's from somebody in that same group, and she said, each soul has its own formula. And that's Jenna from she's an intuitive at Coffee for Your Soul. So I'll repeat that again. Each soul has its own formula. And I think that ties it up nicely of, we're all trying to get in our sweet spot. It may not be that you can copy somebody else's formula and it work, but, if you can tap into your intuition, if you can listen to yourself, take care of yourself, ask these questions that we've talked about today, then, you and I both believe that the universe isn't going to set you up with a desire to do something and give you this energy to do something and then leave you, under the carpet. That's not the way it works. So I think that would be, the main lesson today is just, take inspiration, write down your intention, take inspired action, and leave the door open. Leave the door open for opportunity for, expected and unexpected blessings, right?
Beautiful. Well, let's share quickly where everyone can find you, and then I'll share my website as well, just in case they want to continue on and learn more about this whole sweet spot business.
Awesome. Well, I have, right now I'm in the middle of a launch, and I have my sweetspotstyleyourbiz.com website up, and I have my regular sweetspotstyle.com website where you can find my book and home decor inspiration and that kind of thing. How about you?
I'm at elenalipson.com, ELENA Lipson.com, where you can get my free meditations and read my blog and amazing interviews. And my year-long program that I mentioned is not open right now, but it will be soon. So there is a wait list on the website, and that's divineselfcarecircle.com. And it's my passion, baby. Like, I love this circle so much. It's where I give the most of my time, energy, and knowledge and creativity and contemplation all goes in there. And it's capped off with this amazing live retreat and virtual retreats. But you can look at it all in there. But most importantly, whoever's listening today and you stayed with us, awesome. I know there's a lot of, inspiration and content. And I think it's because when you are in your sweet spot, you can talk about it all day long. So these interviews go a long time. So I hope you got some wisdom of nuggets for yourself to check in with your body, check in with yourself, to trust yourself. If something feels right, go for it. If it doesn't, question it, right? You got the choice to make. And this is your business, your way. You are not a template. And I love that. Every soul has its own formula. Is that the quote? Did I get it right?
Yeah. Each soul has its own formula.
Each soul has its own formula. So just have fun figuring yours out. Really tap into that. And if you want to contact us, you've got our information, and just go for it. Find that sweet spot.
Yay. Bye.
So much. It was so much fun.
Thank you so much, too. Take care.
Take care.